Hey guys, Jason here. Welcome back to another episode. I'm going to be doing a 3.5-year review on this Onefinity x35. I'm going to tell you the pros, the cons, the things I liked about it, the things I didn't like about it. Would I buy this again? Is this the right machine for you? Stick around, let's look at it. The Onefinity comes with a touchscreen controller. Normally it comes with an 8-inch screen. I have upgraded to this 10-inch touchscreen. These monitors are normally mounted to the front corner of this machine. Now I found that I kept knocking the monitor off of its mount, and I broke the first monitor. I got this 10-inch replacement, and within about a month it knocked it off and it cracked. The monitor still worked, but I decided to move that from the corner up here to the wall where it's easier to see. And so I have my monitor remounted, and I also have it strapped down so it's not going to move or come off. It had a magnetic mount that normally holds this, and the magnets could easily pop off. It's great if you want to hold this thing in your hand and work the machine, but I found it much easier to just have it mounted on the wall like this, where you can easily reach the controls. Now, this is one of the downsides to the touchscreen, is if it's been sitting for a minute, these cords over here, they tend to wear out fairly quickly. And so what'll happen is the touchpad will lose sensitivity. But if you move the cords around, a lot of times it will come back. And if it doesn't, I just quickly reboot the monitor and that brings it back up. The touchpad has controls for the machine that allow you to move the machine around. Now, this machine allows you to load G-code from Wi-Fi, which is a huge benefit. I can log on to this from my computer inside the house and upload my G-code files here, which I can then just select the one that I want. It will load that file into the controller and give me an estimated time of how long that project is going to take. And then I just need to hit play to run the G-code. The Onefinity CNC has been an extremely reliable machine. In the 3.5 years that I've had it, I've only had to take it apart one time to do deep cleaning. The biggest part that gets dirty is down here next to the ball screws. There's an opening that goes in between the ball screw and this carrier. And so a lot of times chips will fly into here and they like to compact. This can easily be cleaned by using like an air nozzle with some compressed air, and I'll just blow that out with my air compressor, and that's a quick way to clean that out. The machine uses a voltage instead of switches for its positioning. I opted to run all of my cables overhead for my router and my dust collection system. I'm using a 4-inch hose. The machine came with a suck-it dust boot that was mounted with some brackets that went to the side here. These brackets would stick out and hold the dust boot at a fixed position, so the dust boot would not move. The router would move up and down through the dust boot and cut. I broke that fairly quickly. The first year I owned it, I kept running it into the material as I was maneuvering it around. I have since designed a wooden style dust boot. Now this is just on here very loosely, but my dust boot, if something happens to this one, I can just print out another one. And I've been using this for about 2.5 years, this design. I do like the bigger 4-inch hose versus the 2.5-inch hose. This provides for better suction and keeps your table nice and clean. I also have used the probe. The probe is super valuable to line your project up and get everything aligned. I would highly recommend getting the probe. Most people with the Onefinity CNC machine are using a sort of an Xbox controller to control their machine. I currently am not using an Xbox controller of any kind. I'm just controlling it using the screen controls to move it around. You have the option to use a Makita router or you also can upgrade to a spindle. I would say that the Makita router is probably the weakest part of my current setup. However, they are extremely cheap compared to spindle systems. I found on eBay I can get these Makita routers for about $90 plus shipping. This is actually the third router that I've had in the 3 years. So if you do go with the router and use them pretty heavily, you may go through one or two. If you are using the Makita router, you want to make sure that you're using wrenches to take the collet nut on and off. You don't want to use this button at all to hold it, because you will crack this housing. Another thing about these Makita routers is that the dial tends to move. Now you can put a piece of tape here. I have a piece of plastic sticking in on the side of the dial here to keep it from moving, but these dials tend to move. And so if you're just starting off, it's a good idea to either tape that down or put something in there to keep that from moving. These machines will hold up really well if you keep them well maintained. I oil mine about once a month, and I keep the chips and everything blown off of it as best as I can. I opted to run my cabling underneath my table. I simply just drilled holes at the openings where the machine is mounted to, and then that runs down underneath, and I have the black box mounted down here under the table, and I have the stop button is very close to the edge of the machine, so I can easily hit that stop button here. Also, by having it under the table, it keeps the dust out of it, and so that's been very beneficial. Some of the things that I really like about this machine is that it's been a beast in cutting. A lot of times I'll average 200 to 300 inches a minute with a 1/4 inch bit. I have several videos of me cutting extremely fast and deep with this machine. I think it's a very solid machine. There's a few things that I don't like about it. The main things that I don't like about it had to do with the software and the updates. Several of the updates of the software came out that were buggy and had flaws, and you had to watch the update cycle and watch the forums to see how many people were complaining about the updates before Onefinity was able to get them fixed. As of the recording of this video, I'm using version 1.0.9. This has been the most stable version for me. I've heard that people have had good success with the upgrades. I just haven't done that because I feel like that if something's working, unless I'm getting a lot of benefit from the upgrade, I tend to stick with what works. One of the other things that I do not like about the Onefinity is their online Facebook censorship and Instagram censorship. It's hard to find any negative reviews about these machines because the company doesn't look favorable upon those, and so many times if someone says something negative or is having an issue, a lot of times those posts will get taken down. And since on Facebook there was actually a second group that was created as an uncensored Onefinity group. Now I will give them a lot of credit because they do have a great team for support. They also have a great team to fix problems. So if you do have an issue and you email Onefinity support, these guys are super fast to answer. And they have always been really good at helping diagnose and send parts and stuff like that. Overall, I would say this is probably the best machine in its price range. For the money, you couldn't buy a more stable machine. The real con of this machine is the same con that most machines like this have, and that's the fact that it has an open loop stepper system. The open loop stepper system is affected by electronic interference. This can cause missteps and problems with your projects. I found that the Onefinity had a lot of EMI problems. These were solved with ferrite ring cores that we put on all the cords, and this really helped it out. I'd highly recommend grounding your machine and also adding the ferrite ring core clips to all of the cords. I'll put those in a link down below. Guys, that's the Onefinity X35. The Onefinity Woodworker is an excellent hobby-style CNC machine. I think the pros of this machine outweigh the cons by a lot. If I had to do it all over again, I would definitely buy this machine again. It's been rock solid, and it's done everything that I've wanted to do with it. If you thought this review was valuable, comment below and let me know. I'll do more product reviews like this if you guys are interested in it. I'd like to give a big thanks to all of our Timber Falls Elite members. You guys keep the bit spinning and we really appreciate your support. If you're interested in becoming a Timber Falls Elite, check out the link below or our website at timberfalls.us. Thanks guys, I'll see you on the next one.